Okay, so this is a video about the 4 archetypes of the mature masculine, the king, warrior, magician, lover, and how they relate to each other and how we can cultivate each of them. Okay, so why am I sharing this? I came across this model from Robert Moore, and I also see a lot of similarity between different models, and I think it's a very, very useful way of looking at the world. Okay, why it's important and why it would be useful is that it helps you understand the conflicting and the different operating mechanisms within your psyche, within your consciousness. Okay, and while it's important not to separate and categorize these things into separate parts, it's useful to know how they operate within each other, because they're all linked and they're all interconnected. So, if we don't have this understanding, it can be difficult, because sometimes these 4 elements or these parts within us, they conflict with each other, and this causes confusion. So it's useful to know this, because with this knowledge, you can understand, or you can see the way these different what's lacking perhaps, or what's underdeveloped, and what needs more cultivation, what needs more care, and also how to nurture them, and seeing also when these different parts of us are out of balance, either in the excess or the positive, or the lack, which is the negative, right? And they really helped me understand what was going within me, right? And also that there is a multi-facet to a human being, and in either one of these things, when put as the king, if the warrior is put as the king, chaos happens. If the magician is put as the king, warrior happens. I mean, what I'm saying is that anything in excess is not helpful. Okay? So now I've talked about why it's important to know. Okay? So with this understanding we can gain clarity in what's happening. We can organize resources to cultivate and balance those different parts of us. So what are they? They are the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. Okay? These different parts of us, they operate within us. And so now I'm going to describe what each of them are, what each of them are. The warrior is the doing aspect of us, and it relates to our physical intelligence. Okay, it's our discipline, it's our ability to get the job done, it's our ability to cut through emotions and cut through overthinking and focus on action. Okay, that is the warrior. The warrior is our physical intelligence. It's our body. It's bringing something into reality. It is the soldier of the king. Okay. The magician is the thinking element. Okay, it's the Merlin. These archetypes are. These archetypal language is meant to plug you into the grand story, right? So when I'm using this, it's a language designed for that purpose. It's not scientific language; it's mythical language. Okay, so the magician is the thinking part of us. It is the one operating in magic. It is the one operating in spells. And another word for spells are words, because when you cast spells, you're speaking. And that's how it relates to the word spelling. Okay, so the thinking part of us, which is the intellect, operates in words, it operates in language. It is our mental intelligence. It is the expert. It is the intellect. So moving on, the lover. The lover is our emotional intelligence. It is the feeling. It is the oneness with everything. It's the feeling of interconnectedness with everything. It's the union between man and woman, the masculine and feminine. It is the part of us that's connected to the mother. Okay? It is the part of us that's connected to Mother Nature. It's the sensuality. Okay? It is the ecstatic, the dancer. It is it's the lover. Okay? It's the emotional intelligence. It's the compassion, etc., etc. Okay? The king. The king is being. Okay? It is our spiritual intelligence. It's the knowing versus the thinking. Okay? They're different things. Knowing doesn't need thought. It is there and it's self-evident. It's changeless, okay? It's real knowledge, it's knowing, it's being, okay? It's I am. Now, each one of these elements can be out of balance, they can be out of whack. For instance, if the warrior is in excess, he becomes the sadist. Okay, he likes inflicting pain upon others because he's lacking an alignment with love. Okay, if he's in his I'm trying, man. Okay. Where was I going? Okay. So the where was I? So the okay. So the warrior in his excess is the sadist. Okay. The warrior in his negative, in his lack, is the masochist. Okay. The magician in its excess, the shadow magician, is the know-it-all. Okay, it's the trickster. The magician in its negative is the fool. Each one of these parts operate within us, and we swing from either. They're bipolar, right? So if one of them is in excess, it's going to swing eventually to its lack. It's just the way it works. Okay. The magician, the lover in excess is, no, if I can get this right, I actually know this one. The lover in excess, okay, if someone's an excess and loving in it, in the lover energy, I believe they would be over sensual, right? They would be almost be like the addict. They're so infused and addicted to pleasure. In the lack of it, what is it? I guess it's cold. It's something that's lacking in the finer thing. It's lacking in the, I don't know what that term would be. Anyway, you get my point. The king in excess is the tyrant. The king in lack is the coward, or it's the weak king. Okay, don't forget they all swing. So if you're heavy on one end, you're going to swing to the lack on the other end, right? Okay, so that's what happens. And maybe I'll make another video describing what happens more in depth when those things go out of in positive or negative, and what is that? How does that manifest in the world? But for now, I'm going to talk about how we can cultivate. What practices can we do? What practical applications can we make to each of those to develop those four archetypes, those four intelligences, okay? So, number one, okay, the warrior. So this is stuff, the practices that would be involved in developing the warrior archetype or physical intelligence is training. So it's movement training, it's exercise, it's lifting weights, it's exercise, okay? The other side of that is diet, it's nutrition, it's what do you feed yourself, what kind of foods do you eat? Are they beneficial to your system? What are you building your body with? Okay, so what foods are you consuming? What water are you drinking? What supplements are you taking? Etc, etc. The magician, the mental intelligence. You need to develop this, you need to study, you need to read, you need to write, you need to spend time in focused learning, okay? You also need to teach. So you consume material, which is the yin, okay? So you learn, you study, you consume knowledge, you consume information, and then you teach it, okay? So, or you do it, you apply what you've learned, which also relates to the warrior. But a big part of learning is teaching, which is basically what I'm doing right now. Okay, so the part of me learning is by teaching. That is the magician. Okay, reading and writing operates in words, speaking operates in words, it's language. That is the spells, okay? That's the magician. The mental intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence, i.e. the lover. How do you develop the lover? So this is directly related to how you relate to other people. How do you communicate to other people? Do you communicate from a place of love, or do you communicate from a place of separation, fear, etc., etc., or ego? Okay? Are you totally egocentric and selfish when you interact with another person, or are you operating from that place of union when you understand that you are one with each other? You are fundamentally the same thing. Do you communicate non-violently? Okay, so non-violent communication is a fantastic model that you can then apply and learn these or how you can develop this lover element. Okay, do you spend time in sacred sensuality? Are you appreciative of the foods that you eat? Do you bite an apple and do you taste every part of it, or do you simply just whop it, stuff the donut down your mouth and don't even care? You don't even actually taste the foods. I think another part of this is probably how do you cultivate your sexual essence? Okay, so how do you activate the masculine part of us, and how do you activate the feminine part of us? Okay, spending time in nature, etc., etc., or spending time with other men if you want to, or challenge, or austerity. These awaken our sexual essences. That is emotional intelligence. How do you develop the spiritual intelligence, which I argue is the most important thing, because if the king is not present in the kingdom, then the other three elements have nothing to be subordinate to, and there's chaos, okay? If the magician is the king, then bad shit happens because you're run by your head, and we all know how that can be a problem, because overthinking is a serious blight, okay, and something that I resonate with. I overthink a lot sometimes. I have a tendency to overthink. So the magician, the mind, when the mind is in charge, it's not a good master, okay? For instance, if you want to do something, if you're intending to do something, you're doing something, and your feelings with it, but your thoughts are not aligned to it, are not, I'll say no, then you get paralyzed by overthinking, okay? Or if the warrior is in, say if you know it's a good idea, so you think logically you know it's a good idea, you love to do it, but you don't have the discipline to do it, then the warrior is fighting with the magician and the lover, okay? You can see how these different elements fight against each other, and without the king, which is the stillness, it's the being, it's the presence, then all of these things are fights with each other. They have conflict, okay? So the spiritual intelligence is the most important part, I argue. Practices for that is having a vision, okay? Having a why, which is your mission, having a what, okay? So what do you want to do, what do you want to contribute, what do you want to achieve, which is the vision, and also how are you going to live that. So your principles, okay? So the principles, being principally centered on, because you can attain wealth without work, but it will always degenerate, okay? You can be scientific, but if you lack compassion and humanity, you become the cold, rational scientist who studies a frog by taking it apart instead of actually looking at the live frog, okay? It's the cold, rational. What else? Where was I? How do you develop spiritual intelligence? How do you cultivate the king within? You need a mission, a purpose, or a purpose, same thing. Why are you here? You need a vision, what you're going to do, what you want to contribute, what you want to achieve, and how are you going to do that? What principles are you going to embody to bring about that change, okay? That's the outward component of the king. The inward component of the king is presence, it's stillness, it's contemplation, okay? It's being. So those are some of the practices that you can do to cultivate those four elements and watch how they interplay with each other. So yeah, thank you for listening.